What's up, everybody? Welcome to Storm Sessions. My name is Danny Enriquez, and I am here with the captain of the surging Miami Hurricanes baseball team, Dorian Gonzalez. How you doing?
Good. I'm excited to be here. I've seen a couple of the episodes, the previous episodes that you've done with some of my teammates, and it's pretty cool just going into a deep dive, their family life, just stuff outside of baseball. So I'm excited.
No, fired up, and obviously you went to the finest academic institution in Florida, Belen Jesuit. So I know you're going to be a polished professional here. But before we even get started on the sports stuff, I did some research, and I understand that you have some talents that maybe people don't know about, particularly on the sixth string. You got some guitar skills as well. Is that still something you're keeping up with? Tell me about the guitar ability.
Yeah, that was something I did growing up. My parents were big, so I went to Conchita, which is a school next to the block over from the high school I went to, Belen Jesuit. And they were big in the arts. It was almost mandatory to, play an instrument or dance or something. So I chose the guitar, and I stuck with it for about 5 years. I went to not concerts, but like competitions and stuff like that, and I did like duets in front of crowds of people, and it was fun. It was fun. I wish I'd stuck with the guitar, to be honest with you.
You can pick it up still. I mean, look, you're pretty busy these days, but
Yeah.
you got the basics. What was your go-to song?
Go-to song. At that age, we were learning the basics, so it was more of like, man, I can't even give you a name, but it was like basic songs, basic like learning the strings and everything. So it was fun.
Of course, baseball. That's kind of family business. Your father was a Cane baseball player as well, Dorian Gonzalez Sr. So you now follow in the footsteps. Just take me back to the beginnings of the baseball journey for you, like just your first memories of either playing baseball with your dad or just being around the sport.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to when I was probably like 3 years old, 4 years old is when I started, swinging the bat and throwing balls against the wall at home, and my dad introduced me to baseball. I went to a complex not too far from here. It's called Red Berries.
Mm-hmm.
It's not open anymore, but
Yeah,
it was.
his nephew is my son's coach.
Oh wow, yeah. So it was really popular down here, and that's where I played my first couple years of baseball. Just got into the basics of baseball, and then after those 2 years, my dad was my coach, my little league coach, until I got to Belen. So those years from after Redberry to Belen, it was a lot of travel ball baseball. My dad was obviously the coach. Um, Coach JD, his son Ari was on the team, and JD would come out and help out and help us with like the baseball fundamentals, and that's where I learned the basis of baseball. So those were really fun times. Then I got to Belen, and let me tell you, during this whole time, I grew up going to Miami baseball games, like from age 5 to about my senior year of high school. I was at the light every weekend. Um, so going back to Belen, I got to Belen. I played middle school baseball. Followed that route with my friends and stuck with it. Played high school baseball. Started on varsity as a freshman. Worked my way up, and now I'm here.
So taking it back a little bit. So only child, so a lot of attention on you. I heard when you were in Redberry as like a 3-year-old, you were hitting it too hard that you were like a danger to the other kids. So they had to move you up a little bit.
Yeah.
When did you kind of first realize, hey, I'm good at this. Like I can play this and I'm going to be able to play for a little bit?
Yeah. I would say probably a little after that stage, probably when we got to like the first stages of like kid pitch, coach pitch around there. I was always like hitting the ball further than everyone else. I had a lot of success, and it just continued on, and I was very confident every time I would step on the field. That's a big part of baseball. If you're confident on the field, everything tends to work out most of the time. But that's really where I got my knack of, okay, I can do this thing, and I can be pretty good at this game.
Your dad is a coach. Now, there's a couple layers to that, right? So your dad's the coach, so he's naturally going to be probably harder on you because you're one of his best players, if not his best player, and his son. But then there's the other layer, which is the guy knows what he's talking about. Obviously, he played. It's not like it's just some random dad that you can kind of backtalk a little bit. So what was that like growing up with your dad as a coach?
Yeah, it's funny you say that he knows and he played baseball, so he knows. He had to bring in another coach throughout my little league years so that coach would kind of coach me up and tell me what to do. Because my dad would tell me things and we would get into like little fights. I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. It was fun. We would bicker all the time. And he brought that coach in, and then he would tell the coach, hey, he needs to do this. The coach would relay it to me, and I'd be like, okay, I got it. I'll change it up. But no, it was awesome. I'm extremely grateful for those moments growing up as my dad coached me. He still coaches me today. We'll go over like film after the games and be like, oh, you're leaning a little too forward. You're too heavy on your front foot. So it still continues to this day, and I'm grateful for it.
What's something that he told you in those early days about baseball that you might have been like, hey, whatever. And now that you are in his shoes, right, wearing these colors and playing at this level, that you're like, you know what? He was right about that.
Yeah. He preached a lot about confidence and about like slowing the game down and being calm. And I kind of learned that these last 2 years. Really, it took me that long to really grasp what he was talking about. You can't really play baseball stressed out or worried about, well, I need to get a hit here. I didn't get a hit my last at bat, or I can't make an error. He taught me how to play carefree, really, is what he preached a lot.
Carefree is not something you hear a lot about Belen, because those who do not know, you're talking about you guys still wear the tie, right?
We do.
Yes,
We
tie, do. All boys. You get a 0 if you don't turn in your homework on a quiz. At least that's how it was my day. Yeah. That's why my grades weren't too good, how your grades were. But just being in that atmosphere, right? What was that like as a high schooler?
Yeah, the thing about Belen is there's competition every day. I want to get a better grade than you did on this assignment. I want to get a better grade than you did on this test. And I want to show you too. It's like I want to show it in your face. So there was always competition. It made you more hardworking, a better person. And it was the same way with sports too. We had some pretty good teams while I was there, and everyone worked hard. It was inspiring to be around.
Were they still trying to work together to cheat on the test? That was always a big thing. That was when the teamwork started. Was trying to figure out how to get the answers ahead of time.
Yeah, I no comment. I'm not sure what you're talking about. That must have been an 03 thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The generations since have gotten much better. Yeah. But obviously, growing up with the Arteaga family, just talk about that relationship which started for such a long time.
Yeah. So it starts all the way back with our grandparents. So my grandma and JD's mom, Ari's grandma, they were friends in Cuba, I believe. They came here and they stuck together, and they had kids at the same time, being JD and my dad. They put them in Little League together, and they kind of grew up playing baseball together. They separated when they got to high school. My dad went to Coral Park, JD went to Westminster, and then they kind of reunited back here at the Light. They played here for 3 years, and then after that they kept their relationship. They're extremely close, and they decided to have kids pretty much at the same time, just like their mothers did, with me and Ari. So it was the same deal with me and Ari growing up. We were always in the same travel team. We didn't really go to elementary school together, but we basically hung out like we did. We hung out like two brothers growing up. We would fight and make up, and it was a brotherly bond that we had. And that's really how the Gonzalez and Arteaga family got intertwined there.
And for those who didn't know Ari, just the personality, what kind of person was he growing up with?
He walked into the room and he always wanted to be like the clown of the group. He was funny. He always had a joke to pull out of his sleeve. and he was always good energy. You know, Ari walks in the room and he's smiling, and he'll make you laugh, and it's always fun. And not only that, he was an incredible athlete too. He played football, we played baseball, obviously together. Um, he was just a great all around person.
Obviously, tragic passing in high school, huge impact on a lot of people. I remember when that happened. I didn't know the family, but I just so many people were impacted by that because of who he was and who the family is. I mean, it was a huge thing in the community. You being so close to it, what was it like for you?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest times of my life for sure. One of the hardest times for a lot of people's lives. Just like you're saying, he touched a lot of people in the community. Um, I basically like lost a brother when Ari passed. I'm a quiet person, so when that happened, I bottled it up, and you know, some of my friends, we had our friend group went to go see some therapy and go talk to people, and I would always say no, and I kind of kept it in a lot. And that's just how I am. But it did really hurt me. That was a hard time to go through. But every day, um, since that moment, we live to honor his name. His parents started the foundation. They're doing great things with that. They help other kids with that are in need of some sort of help, and we help out that foundation. So we're always finding a way to help out for his cause.
I know one moment during that process was you gave us a speech at the celebration of life. And obviously, that's hard enough for an adult, right? You're still in high school. What was that like, and how important was it for you to deliver?
Yeah, that was to this day. That's one of the hardest things I've had to do. I was extremely nervous. I didn't want to mess it up. There was a lot of people at that mass, and it was something that I cared a lot about. Um, I got up there. I remember I was shaking. It took me a little while to get my words out, to get my first words out, and I wrote up a paper and I read through it. Once I started reading and started to like fully like understand what I was saying, and I got past the nerves, like it just flowed because it just made sense. It was me and Ari growing up, and that's what I talked about, and it was easy to talk about because we had a lot of good memories together, a lot of good moments, and I shared that with a lot of people in attendance that day.
I know it made a huge impact. And then flowing from that, not long after this whole situation, you committed to the University of Miami. So what was that like, kind of making this decision, which is a huge one amidst so much going on?
Yeah. So the summer before that, I had a good summer ball showing, and the recruiting coordinator here would reach out and be like, "Hey, we would like to offer you, like we want you here. You're a hometown kid. We want you here." And I would tell him like, look, I love Miami. Obviously, this is number one choice for me right now, but I want to see like what other options I have just to see him out. Um, and when the whole thing happened with Ari, I knew JD's a part of the program. They're a big part of my life. I live about 15 minutes from campus, and I just realized like this is where I want to be. I want to be with JD. I want my family to be here. I want everyone to be together, and they could come see me play. So I called up the recruiting coordinator, and I was like, "Hey, if that offer is still on the table, like I would love to come here." They're like we would love to have you. And I spoke with JD about it at an event, and he, it was extremely emotional as well, between us two, and it was a great moment. I'm glad I made that decision.
Before we get into him as a coach at the ACC level, your coach at the ACC level, before that relationship began, where you're again his player at the University of Miami, what was it like being around JD? Just what do you remember about him before your relationship shifted into what it is now?
Yeah. So JD was like he still is like a father figure to me. Growing up, like I said, he was always there with my dad, coaching our little league teams. he would treat me like a son. He was hard on me sometimes. Other times he's extremely funny. He has a really funny sense of humor. A lot of people don't know that because you'll see like the fire come out of him as a head coach, but he can be really funny sometimes. He brings good energy. He's a good person. Um, and it was just that relationship growing up where he was like that second father figure to me.
Now he's an authentic guy. Everybody can see that. So I'm sure he didn't change when you became a player for him, but just in terms of dealing with him and being, you're at UM and now he's your coach. This is not, little league. What was that like when you're being coached by somebody who you've known your whole life, but now it's a little different situation?
Yeah, he didn't change at all. He's still hard on me to this day, which is great. It makes me better, especially on the field, off the field too. He's hard on me. But we do share great moments together. We laugh. We'll joke around. We're obviously very comfortable around each other. And I know that he feels like he confides in me and he can tell me things and, hey, what's going on with the team? How's the team feel? What are the vibes? And we'll talk. It's a great relationship that we have. I think we understand each other. And it's a funny dynamic. It's really cool, and I'm grateful that he's my head coach right now.
It's amazing because you have so much pressure just as a college athlete, right? No, this isn't the big leagues, right? So this the big leagues of college. This is the ACC, right? So you're dealing with all the pressure as a college athlete on your own performance and yourself, but you know how this is. No matter who's sitting in that chair, there's 4,000 coaches in the stands that are going to second guess everything that happens. How much of your attitude is like, not only do I want to show everybody what I'm about, but show everybody what my coach is about and what he means to this program?
Yeah. So last year we obviously didn't have the best of years. It's not a good year at all, actually. And there was a lot of outside commentary, and I didn't like it at all. And some of it was directed toward the team. Most of it was directed towards JD. And obviously we're very close. We're like family, and you don't like hearing that. So every game it was like, all right, I want to win. I want to win for the team. I also want to win for JD. It means a lot to me. And every game I step out there, okay, I got a chip on my shoulder. I want to prove everyone wrong that has those doubts about our team and about JD. And that's really what it comes down to for me.
Let's take it back a little bit. So you come in as a freshman. Those teams were loaded with a lot of guys that you see now on major league rosters or on top 10 prospect lists. So you're coming in here from Belen. Obviously, you have confidence in yourself, but it's a different deal. What was that like stepping into the University of Miami?
Yeah, it was an honor to play with some of the guys that I played with when I first got here. A couple of them have made it to the big leagues or are knocking on the door of getting to the big leagues. And as a freshman, I came in here and I made sure I did everything right. I worked my tail off, and I just learned. I learned a lot from those guys. Thought we had a great coaching staff as well. Every day this program just pushes you to make you a better player and a better person every day, with the people that are surrounded by this program. But yeah, I just came in there with a learning mentality. There's obviously a lot of greats that I played with on that field and in that coaching staff, so I was open-minded and ready to work.
In terms of just the school, right? People assume you're from Miami, so you're going to the University of Miami. It's nothing, but this is not Sweetwater, Tamiami, and Coral Gables. It's like a different environment, right? Different people around. It's a whole different vibe. So what was that like coming into the University of Miami, even being a local kid?
Yeah, so our team, we have mostly, that Latin group of kids that are on the team from Miami, from South Florida. We also have groups that are from nowhere around here. We have kids from California, South Carolina this year, and it was fun to work with and get to know teammates that were from different parts of the world, the country, and just gel and work together towards one goal. I think that makes you like a better team, better person, getting to work with different personalities and gelling together.
And how important, because this season has been a roller coaster, highs and lows, right? On the low part, how important was that tightness of the team to get through it and to get to this run that you're on now where you're the talk of college baseball?
Yeah, and I'm sure you see it in almost every interview. They talk about the team and how close this team is, and it's crazy because we have about 30 new guys, I believe, and it's from day one the vibe was just right. Like the coaches did a great job of bringing in good character guys, like JD says, and it's just from day one. We did a lot of activities together. During the fall, we had like mental workshops every Wednesday. We would open up to each other, and we got close really quick, really quick. And we went through that rough patch, to start the year, and no one really panicked. Like there was no panic button hit. We were still the same loose group, close knit team, and we caught a break. Things started to go right for us, and we just ran with it.
You're the captain of the team, so a lot of that responsibility to keep everybody from panicking, some of that falls on you, right? That's part of your job as the captain. Obviously, you're dealing with, some older players, some veterans, and guys that are on point, but you're the captain. So was there a message that you gave or just something that you wanted to get across through your performance and how you carried yourself?
Yeah. As the captain, a lot of people do look up to you. They look at your actions. How do you handle failure? Number one. Through that rough patch, I tried to stay positive for the team, because I knew a lot of guys were watching, and that's what the guys did when I was younger, and they were captains. They would, everything was positive. We're okay. Everything's gonna be fine. It's baseball. It's just a game. And those are the same messages that I tried to relay with some of the guys, or most of the team, and everyone listened and everyone stuck together, and it's awesome to see it right now.
When you mentioned like guys that came before you, is there somebody that you remember saying like, now that you're the captain, being like, man, I remember how so and so did this or that?
Guys that stuck out to me were Yo-Yo Morales, Gage Deal. Those are good character guys. They were fierce competitors. They were very aggressive on the field, and they always found a way to win. They wanted to win so badly that it rubbed off on everyone else, and it made the team a lot better. So I looked up to those guys for sure.
It was interesting with you. People that know you from UM are like, all right, Dorian Gonzalez, this is exactly your Dade County baseball player. His dad played here at baseball. But then I talked to people that knew you before UM, and you hear about Dorian Gonzalez, the athlete. You on the basketball court as a youth player, or you're a little fiery. On the football field, you're the quarterback. You actually, as I understand, Fernando Mendoza, who some of you guys may know as the quarterback for Cal, now in Indiana, he was your backup at Belen, handing off to Don Chaney, right, who was here for a little bit. So tell me a little bit about the other sports and how they helped you do what you do now.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents were big on playing different sports and not playing baseball year round. I know that's a big topic now, like, oh, you have to play baseball year round. I don't believe in that at all. I learned so much from the other sports that I played. I started football and basketball just after I started baseball. So I pretty much played all three sports until I think it was my freshman year of high school when I stopped playing basketball. And it was just football and baseball until my junior year of high school when I stopped playing football. And then it was just baseball from senior year of high school on. But yeah, the three sports taught me a lot. Football, I said it earlier, if I was taller, I would be playing football right now somewhere. I'd be a quarterback somewhere. I love football so much. And football taught me that aggressor, mindset. You don't like to get knocked around in football. You you don't want someone to hit you. You want to hit them first type of mentality. And that stuck with me. In basketball, I was always like the defensive guy. Hey, go stop him. We need to stop. Okay, I got it. Don't worry. I'm aggressive. I won't back down. Um, and those are things that I learned, and I use that in baseball now too. I'm facing a good pitcher, and I'm like, this guy can't get me out. That's the mindset, and I credit that to basketball and football and the different traits that I learned growing up.
Do you get to play basketball in the off season? I'm sure JD doesn't want to hear it, but like, do the baseball players get together and play some hoops?
Not really, to be honest. We try to stay away from playing basketball and stuff like that. Maybe some golf now. I've taken up some golf with some of my teammates, but we try to stay away from the courts because you don't want to get injured at this
For
point
sure.
in your career. So,
Who's the best golfer out there?
best golfer. Hmm. Damn. Probably give it to my boy Gabby Gutierrez.
Okay.
Shout out to him. He can swing it on the golf course. Couple other guys, pitchers are usually the better golfers.
Right.
My first couple years, there was a lot of pitchers that were really good at golf. Jake Garland being one of them. He was a team captain. But there's a lot of guys that can swing it.
So when your career is done in the major leagues, right? Obviously, I don't need to ask you if that's your goal. I'm assuming that's your goal,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So after your baseball career is done playing, do you see yourself in the game? I know your dad mentioned that you're interested in economics, which he has a background in as well. So where do you see yourself when baseball playing wise is done?
I wouldn't be close to the idea of staying with baseball. I love baseball. I'm a student of the game. I was never that, the biggest or the fastest, most athletic guy in the field. I kind of had to have that baseball feel and do little things right and learn. And I feel like those are good traits to have as a coach, or just to stay in the baseball world. But I would be open to that. My dad's a broker. I could go into that field. I graduate in a few days with a finance degree. Wow. So I'm open to really anything.
And people see the great stuff. They see some of your clutch home runs that you've hit over your career. They see the glory of being an athlete and wearing the colors, but they don't see the days that you don't want to come in. The things you have to push through, the injuries, the rehab, all the unglamorous stuff about being a student athlete at a school like UM. When you're in those kind of low moments, maybe you're in a slump or just not feeling good physically, what pushes you through?
Just that mentality of wanting to be the best version of yourself, wanting to be, better than everyone else, really. There's a lot of moments where, like you said, you don't want to go in or you don't want to put that extra work in. And it's like, no, like this is your life. This is my life. I've played baseball my whole life. And it's just things that you need to do. There's no questioning it. You need to get extra work in. You need to push yourself to get better every single day. And that's the mentality that you need to have to succeed.
Well, you're a popular guy. You got a ton of fan questions here that we're going to get to. So let's start here from Dylan Feingold. Wants to know, how does it feel to play for your hometown team?
It means everything to me. Just the fact that my family can come watch, that's just number one. That's it right there. I love the fact that my grandparents can come to games. My parents pretty much come to every single game. And I'm really grateful that I'm able to do that for them.
This is, for me, this is my fan question because, when I was at Belen, it was not a normal thing to send kids to the University of Miami, right? That level of athletic performance. Maybe you go Ivy if you were really good, but that was not necessarily realistic for kids when I was at Belen. So I know kids now look up to you and say, I don't just have to, think about academics and this. I can get to the highest levels of sport. What does it mean for you to have that kind of impact and have kids believing that they can do it because maybe they're your height, or they had the same path as you, and then you ended up where you're at?
Yeah, it's the sign of anything is possible. Like you said, even before me, I don't think there was a lot of athletes that made it to Miami or big schools in general. And it's great that I can be that guy to look up to, and I embrace that. and there's always Belen kids that come to games, and they ask for my autograph, and I'll always stop and sign or talk to them. Um, but it's really just believing in yourself and just believing anything is possible.
And now Brandon Degody following in your footsteps,
Yeah.
right behind you, right?
Yeah.
You knew us for a while, right?
I know the Goaty. I played with his cousin George Goaty. He went to Florida and then transferred to Indiana. But the Goaty family is big in Belen. There's been a lot of Goatys that have gone through Belen.
So
Yeah.
the pipeline continues.
Yeah.
Got a question here from a very soft-spoken young man named Max Galvin. He wants to know, Dorian, how come you're so demure?
Oh God. That's like a little insider thing that me and Max have. It's demure is kind of like so classy. Like it's another word for like classy.
Yeah.
Me and Max joke about it all the time. It's a TikTok that we saw together,
Okay.
and it was like, oh, that guy's very demure. And it just became our joke. So
That's the Belen,
shout out Max.
Belen class. I feel Max is more 305 than any Cuban I've ever met. I mean, that guy's Mr. 305.
Max loves Miami. Max loves Miami. Max is awesome. He's a good dude, and I'm happy he's here on this team.
Yeah, he's playing great, and he's just an awesome dude.
Yeah.
Andrew Stevens wants to know, what was your baseball journey to get to Miami? We talked about a little this. Let me just break the question down a little bit. What was one part of your baseball journey that you're like, man, this really accelerated the process and allowed me to go to a school like UM?
Yeah. So high school baseball is big. Performing in those big stages of like regionals and playoffs and in high school are great. But I feel like summer ball really put me in that light to get here. Summer ball and travel ball, you play against pretty much the best players in the country all summer, and if you showcase yourself well and you show your talents, you'll get noticed.
There's another one of my questions here, but for those who don't know Miami baseball, sometimes it's a baseball game on the field, and then in the stands it's like UFC, right? So, I don't know whether there's a Tamiami or what part. What's the craziest thing you saw coming up playing youth baseball?
Youth baseball. So I was in coach pitch, and it was in Tropical Park, not too far from here. And it wasn't my team, but we were waiting to play. And the teams that were playing before us, the two coaches, got into a fist fight. The cops showed up.
It's like 5 and 6 year olds on the field.
5 and 6 year olds on the field. My game got canceled. It was crazy. Another day in Miami youth baseball.
Setting the tone.
Yeah.
Preppy89 wants to know, what's your go-to song right before a game?
Go-to song. The guys in the locker room, they love to play my walkout song pregame. They'll play everyone's walkout song to just get everyone going.
So what's your walkout song?
It's Solo by Future.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was my song last year. I stuck with it. I like it. It gets me going, ready to hit in the box.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little old, but Future is the one guy kind of modern that I can get behind. I can play it for my kids, and they can't understand the bad words with the slurring. Yeah. So it's a good way to get around that problem. D. Casilia wants to know, what's your major? You mentioned finance, right?
Finance major.
What do you like about finance?
I've always been great at math. Growing up, I loved math. Math was my favorite subject, and just the fact that my dad deals with numbers all day. He's a financial broker. He'll come home and he tells me stuff about the stock market, and he's taught me a lot about that world. So it's something that I know a pretty decent amount about.
A lot of athletes in finance as well, former athletes.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a pipeline there. Question from Marana Lawa. What do you have to say to young aspiring athletes?
Just to, push yourself every day. It's not easy to get to the levels you want. And the ones that push themselves, that really want it and go after it and go get it, those are the athletes that are going to succeed and get to the places that they want to be.
Another question here about the highs and lows of being a student athlete at Miami. Obviously, the highs are high, the lows, I'm sure, are pretty low. What are some of the lowest moments or the hardest parts, most challenging, let's say, about being here at UM? And then just some of the highs where you're like, man, I'm going to remember this when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah. At Miami, you get a great education for sure. The classes can be a little tough. They're challenging. They give you a lot of work. You got to study a good amount for tests, and it's all to make you a better student, better person. But really just sticking to the book, sticking to your plan, and it'll get you through.
In terms of the highs, I mean, what's like the thing about being here and wearing the colors that just stands out to you?
Yeah. It's Miami. It's everyone looks up Miami like, oh, that's a Miami baseball player, that's a Miami student. So it's just embracing, that kind of swagger, sort of say, of being a Miami student athlete. It's a great feeling. It's something I'm honored and grateful for.
Well, Dorian, listen, it's been a joy watching you play because it'd be fun to continue watching you play here as the season goes on. And I know this particular team has really inspired a lot of people watching just because of what you went through, how you pushed through. And I know this story there's still a lot of chapters left in this story, but it's been just awesome to watch, man. So appreciate you coming on Storm Sessions. Remember to like and subscribe to the show on the official Miami Hurricanes YouTube channel, Canes All Access, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Dorian, man, appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.